All right, as we get ready for our session, I can do some brief logistics here for everybody. I have turned on the recording, so if you want to participate but don't want to be seen, you can keep your camera off or use the chat, and either I or the panel will repeat your question so that those on the recording can hear it. We have enabled the Zoom captions. They're auto transcript, and usually the auto transcript does a good job. We haven't had anyone tell us they need accommodations today, so hopefully we're good there. But if you need those captions or want those captions, it's just using the caption button in the toolbar. And if you don't see that caption button, it is hidden under the More button with the 3 dots, and then just select the caption option from the menu that pops up. We encourage questions in the chat. This is meant to be interactive. This conference is all about sharing, so please share your ideas and your questions. And then I would like to get us started. It is top of the hour. So welcome to session 9C, Flexible Online Courses Support Equity and Achievement, with Dr. Brian Beatty, Dr. Zahira Merchant, if she is going to join us today, Sadia Shahid, Adam Hill, Larry Torres, and Adrienne Oliver from San Francisco State University. I will hand the talking stick over to you.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for taking your time, everyone, for being part of the presentation today. We're going to use a presentation for a few slides, but most of what we're going to do is have students, either current students or recent graduates, talk to you about their experiences of equity and quality and some of the advantages and maybe challenges of having a flexible online environment. So that's what the most of the time is going to be. And as you hear them, I encourage you to use the chat for comments and questions. We may be able to take some questions as we go, or we may hold more of them to the end. I asked students if they'd be willing to participate, and I had an overwhelming response. And so we probably have more student comments than we can actually use. And so some of the students are here live, and the other ones are going to be represented by some videos that they provided, that they shot themselves. And if we don't have time for all of those, there is a link to a YouTube playlist that has all those videos there that you can watch later if you'd like to. So before we get started with the students talking about themselves and where they're going, I just wanted to introduce you a little bit to the topic that we're talking about today. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's hope this works the first time. And I get the indication from Zoom that it's being shared. So there you go. This is called Flexible Online Courses. And the assertion is that they support equity and achievement. And I'm a professor at San Francisco State. I've been here for many years. And I am a co-coordinator of the Online Master of Arts in Instructional Design and Technology, recently renamed Online Master of Arts. In the past, we've been face-to-face with almost everything online. Now we were fully online with a little bit of face-to-face when situations allow it to be done that way. And we're talking about courses that we've been using this style for a long time, many of us, because we have had challenges just like everyone else. We need access to our courses. We started teaching differently almost 20 years ago because we wanted access for online students in our face-to-face courses. But we wanted that to be access that wasn't just access, it was also high quality. And then we got more concerned a little bit, especially more recently, about equity. What we're providing actually leading to equitable learning? That's been a concern from the very start, at least something we wanted to make sure was happening. But also, are we doing students who are in different, potentially minoritized statuses? Is it equitable for them? What do they think about this, especially along those lenses? So that's really what we're trying to get to today. This idea of equity, inclusion, and belonging is more than an idea, of course. We want all the different experiences. We're going to talk about multimodal classes. Every mode, students have to feel like they have equitable learning opportunities, but they also are included and they belong in the class. It's not like they're a second or third choice of the faculty member. They have to know that, their mode, whatever they're choosing, even if it's that asynchronous online mode that some faculty hate to teach in, they're actually getting top quality service, and the faculty treats them as if they belong there and they belong in the class, and the other students do as well. When we started talking about equity a little bit more carefully the last couple of years, we came up with this definition. This was in a paper that I worked with lots of colleagues on in 2020. But we talked about focusing on achieving equal learning outcome. That's what we want for our students. But we also know that our students should have the various areas of support, financial, social, academic, then they need to succeed. We need to give them access, right, to the effective learning opportunities that are appropriate to their situations and that are differentiated according to unique sets. So this is a lot of words. It's an academically written, kind of definition, but this is what we're trying to do. And no, I can't claim that we do this all the time, but we are striving for that. We're talking about classes now that we've been calling them HyFlex for a long time. And for us, this has always been a mix of face-to-face and online. Well, guess what's happened? The last 3 or 4 years, our face-to-face opportunities for our students have gone from really 50% of the students often down to almost nobody, right? So they're turning into fully online classes, still with flexibility between the synchronous and the asynchronous mode. There is still an official opportunity for students to be on campus for the courses, some of the courses in our program, especially the ones that I teach, but most students are not taking advantage of that. So by de facto, they become fully online courses with flexible options between synchronous and asynchronous. It still meets the technical definition of HyFlex, but really we're thinking about renaming these too. Is it online HyFlex? Is it BiFlex? Is it, what is it? Flexible online? Essentially, we have a definition that we're trying to respect and follow, but that definition for us may actually be changing, especially as we start marketing our program more as a fully online program. Essentially, the HyFlex course is a single learning community with multiple paths. Classroom, yes or no. For some students, it's yes. Sometimes students, it's a no. And then online, there could be one online path, there could be 2 online paths. Pre-pandemic, we had about half of our students in person, and then the rest were split between synchronous and asynchronous. Now, with the pandemic and post-pandemic, it's almost nobody who really wants to be in person, usually because either it's more convenient for them online, and you'll hear that from some of our students, but also because if the classroom is only 1 or 2 students and a faculty member, that's a very different experience than what a traditional classroom experience would be. Even in a graduate course, that's typically relatively small, 20 students or less. It's not the same. And that helps, that I think is pushing more students online as well, when they know that the face-to-face experience is not going to be the same as a regular class experience might be. But we still have the split between online synchronous and online asynchronous. In most of my classes, it's pretty much an even split. Occasionally it gets skewed in one direction or another, but from a teacher's perspective, shouldn't matter. It should be quality, and the students should be able to learn it no matter what mode they are. So I asked our students to kind of think about 3 questions. Now, as we're teaching this online, mostly an online HyFlex experience, what's their experience like, especially around kind of the easy ones? Well, what's the advantage for you? What are the challenges you're experiencing? And then hopefully we can spend a little bit more time on this idea. Well, what's your experience of learning quality and equity, right? What does it mean to you? Do you feel like you're getting a quality experience, and you feel like you get an equitable experience, especially if you're shifting between modes? So today we have four participants with us in person. Well, in person on Zoom: Larry, Adrian, Sadia, and Adam. And there's also 6 other students who are represented through videos. And I hope to be able to play some of these for you, or parts of some of them. And if we don't have a chance to see them, that's okay. There's a YouTube playlist that's put together. I tried to use a bit.ly to make it easy to remember or to write down link. And if you want the full link, because you actually want to see it's a real link and not a fake bit.ly link, you can see the link there. So let's start student panel. Let's just do a round of brief introductions, like 30 seconds or less. Where are you at? What's been your experience? Not just how much of this have you done? Has it been mostly online? Has it been mostly face-to-face? And then after that, we'll ask questions about the advantages or benefits, and then another question about the challenges, and then a third question about quality and equity. We'll probably split it up that way. So for now, let's start with the order I have here on the screen. We'll change this up every time just so you have a chance to think about it, what you're going to say. Larry, can you start us out? Brief introduction, 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Larry Torres, and I live in Marin County, originally from Southern California. And my experience with the flexible learning format has been pretty interesting because I got to see it evolve from where it was all in classroom until now where it's HyFlex. I started my community college journey about 15 years ago. And in that time, I got to see a lot of changes. And where I'm at now is I finished the ITech program, the Instructional Technologies, in December. And there was many advantages to that program that I will delve into later. but I'm just happy to be part of this panel.
Thanks, Larry. Adrienne?
Hello, everyone. I'm Adrienne Oliver, and I'm actually a professor in the Peralta District teaching English at Laney. And for me, the flexible learning option, it would be impossible for me to work on my instructional design degree without the flexible learning option. I've been able to participate asynchronously mostly. And so far it's been a positive experience. I'm really learning a lot from this model that I hope I can bring back with me to my work at Peralta.
Okay, thanks, Adrienne. Sadia?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sadia Shahid, and I'm a student from Bangladesh. I'm currently participating in ITIC HyFlex Master's Program. This is my second semester, and I'm joining like synchronously. And I think like this program is a lifesaver for me because I'm a mother of 2 kids and I'm a full-time mom. So this is a great opportunity for me to like start my study again. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to learn in a way that works best for me and my family. And I'd like to share the more advantages or disadvantages later with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sadia. Adam?
Hi, everyone. My name is Adam Hill. I'm in my first semester of the Instructional Technologies program at SF State. And I currently, I'm a senior learning designer at 2U or edX. And so I work a lot with faculty in designing online courses and programs. And so it's been really valuable to be in a HyFlex program myself because I wanted something that had that flexibility and also just explore the different modalities of online learning that I can then bring to my work as a learning designer myself. And looking forward to sharing all of those with you today.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Yeah, so what you'll hear from our students is they all come from very different backgrounds. They have some similarities, of course, but almost everybody is working. Many of them are working full-time, maybe more than full-time. Many of them have family responsibilities, parental, sibling, parents, you name it. And many of them are distributed around the Bay Area. And beyond. Actually, we have some students you'll hear from them who are overseas. And they're able to take advantage of the flexibility and the online nature of this. And so we want to make sure that they're feeling like they're being treated well, and their experiences are good. So let's hear from our live panel first, and then we'll do a couple of videos about the kind of the benefits. What has been the benefits of the online flexible format for you? And let's go in reverse order, just so you know where you're going to be. So Adam, could you start us out with the benefits? We'll try to keep it short, right? Minute and a half, whatever, but say what you need to say. Oh, and one more thing. I'm a professor, so I like to talk, but I'd like to see comments in the chat. If you guys start hearing advantages that you recognize in what he's saying, let's list them in the chat. Let's see what kind of a list we can come up with overall. There you go, Adam. I had a note to say that and I forgot.
Yeah, certainly. So I think I'm someone that prefers to learn in a more synchronous environment, although because I am working full time while I complete this program, I also know that I need the peace of mind of a flexible learning option. So I've also been able to opt into participating asynchronously as needed. So that was really the big draw for me, was both to have a learning community that I could engage with in a more synchronous way. And I feel like I've already made some lifelong friends in the program just through this first semester. So that's really exciting. But also wanted that flexibility to fall back on when work or life should get in the way. And so it's both been a real advantage when I've needed to do that, and also just given me that peace of mind. And yeah, I think that's, and I must say, I also have really liked knowing that I'm in a program that is reaching lots of learners in different ways. And so like, I think I'm also just like, there's a sense of pride in being part of something that's really innovative in this way.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Sadia, can you tell us some of the advantages you've had?
Yes. So the greatest advantage of participation flexibility for me has been the ability to learn at my own pace, because juggling my responsibilities as a full-time mother and a student can be challenging sometimes. But the flexible option in my program, it's really helpful for me. It allows me to balance my responsibilities like without sacrificing the quality of the education. I can watch the lectures and go for the discussion forum, complete all the assignments, even when the kids are in bed, I can do that during that time. It also allows me to avoid the hassle of communicate to the university, commuting, like to traffic to San Francisco and paying for parking, all that thing. And also I must mention another thing that like our courses are zero cost. So I'm really thankful to my professors for that. We don't have to pay for any materials we are reading or using for learning. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a great help for us.
Thank you, Sadia. Okay, Adrienne?
Yes, I wrote down a few notes. I want to be sure to get all the highlights in a minute. I really appreciate the multiple entry points for regular weekly engagement, whether it's synchronous or asynchronous. And what I appreciate is when I'm watching a class video as an asynchronous learner, Dr. B will address the asynchronous people. He'll say, hey, if you're watching asynchronously, now is the time to pull up this Google document and participate. And I actually feel like I'm attending the class from the way that the lecture is taught, if that makes sense. And also, it allows me to connect with my classmates and colleagues in the class as needed. I like what Adam said, that, as needed, I can do synchronous, because then as an asynchronous student, I have some type of real-time interaction that I'm pulling from when I'm engaging. And even if I just am able to make it to 1 or 2 synchronous sessions, it just totally transforms my asynchronous experience. That was my minute.
All right, thank you. That's fine. Thank you. Larry, how about you?
Yeah, so in addition to everybody else's flexibility comments, there's some unique aspects that this allows for embracing kind of emerging technologies that I find match my personality. I can be easily distracted in a classroom because of all the people around me. And what this allows is for a different form of active participation. I've noticed that throughout many of the lectures when the teacher is teaching, I will Google what they're talking about, and I can fill in the gaps in my knowledge and pick up where they left off to kind of facilitate that and take notes for later. And it allows me to ask better questions that are more informed. So I can stay on track that way and find a unique, personalized way to interact with the material.
Thanks, Larry. It can be challenging for your faculty member too to keep up.
Sure.
When there's live research going on during the synchronous session, that's also being recorded for people to listen to later. Okay, well, thanks very much. Let's see if we can pull in some of the voices from our students represented through videos. And there are 6 different videos here, and I'm going to try to play a little bit from each one. Now, before, I should probably back out and share this so that it's got the video settings clicked on the bottom, sharing the sound, optimizing. I think this will work better this way. So let's see if we can get this to come up for us. So this is one of our students, Raquel, and she's going to introduce herself, and then I'm gonna let this run for a minute or 2 while she talks about the advantages, just like we heard from our other students.
Hi everyone, my name is Raquel Plasencia Sanchez, and I'm going to share with you my experience in the HyFlex or flexible online courses. I was admitted into the high-tech program in 2021. I'm currently enrolled in the spring semester at San Francisco State University, and I am now coursing my 4th semester. In fall of this year, I will complete my master's degree in education with a concentration in instructional technologies. Throughout my time at San Francisco State University, I've taken a mix of courses including HyFlex, in-person, and asynchronous ones. I found that these different formats have allowed me to explore different learning styles and have provided me with a well-rounded educational experience. What has been the greatest advantage or benefit of participation flexibility for me. I think that after the pandemic, we learned that life can be very unpredictable, and online learning has been a very powerful resource for a lot of people. In my case, most of the courses from my iTech program have been HyFlex, which allowed me to adapt better to different circumstances. The biggest advantage for me is that since Spanish is my first language, sometimes I can miss relevant parts of the live discussions or conversations. Having the opportunity to rewatch the class recording has been very effective in ensuring I'm on the right path. I can access the recording from multiple devices and listen to my class. While I can always ask for assistance from my professors, I like to try using all the available resources and then communicate with the instructor if I still have questions. What has been the major
Okay, we're going to pause her video there. I mean, she's talking as English is not a native language, and I hear that from several students. You'll hear that from another student in the video as well. As one reason why they, even if they can be synchronous, they enjoy having the asynchronous resources that include the recording with the transcript. And even though it's just a Zoom transcript, it does seem to work pretty well. So we're going to hear from another student now. This is Christopher.
Hello, my name is Christopher Trujillo. I'm an instructional designer for a health insurance company. I participated in HyFlex programs through SFSU's Masters in Instructional Design and Technology. To me, the greatest advantage of a HyFlex program would be the flexibility. My schedule is always free. Even though I have classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, it doesn't mean those days are blocked off for the whole semester. I know I can show up asynchronously when needed. This leads to a less stressful learning environment and allows me to better balance my work, studies, and personal life.
We'll get back to now. His next going to talk about some of the challenges, so we'll come back to Christopher. Let's hear another one of our remote students here. This is Irene.
My name is Irene Cedillo, and I am a graduate candidate for a Master's of Arts in Instructional Design and Technology at San Francisco State University. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to go back to school given my personal circumstances that wouldn't allow me to attend class in person. But I learned about San Francisco State iTech HyFlex program, and that gave me the push I needed to enroll in my master's. I participated in my courses online synchronously, and many times because of my work and my family situation, I also participated asynchronous. However, at some point, before students were able to return to class in person, my family decided to move abroad. Hadn't been for the flexibility of this program, I wouldn't have able to finish my studies. But what has been the greatest advantage in participating in a HyFlex program is that even though I better learn synchronously, as a second language speaker, I found it very helpful to have access to my class recording activity in an asynchronous modality. That allowed me to review and check my information, the knowledge, providing me with the security that I needed. Also, during this program, I have made great friends, but I had never met them in person. Some of us actually, we meet once every 2 weeks to talk about our creative project and, to socialize. I also have made great connections with my professor. In part, I think it's because they're always accessible to me, and I feel even though I have never met them in person, they're there for me to answer my question and to support me.
Okay, thank you. Let's hear one more talking about advantages from online, and then we'll move on to talking about some of the challenges.
Hello, everyone. Dr. BT, thank you for providing me with the opportunity to share my experience with the HyFlex program. The fact that I can share my opinion without being able to participate live online is one of the major advantages that the flexible online option offers. My name is Joanna Thanasi. I am a graduate student, and this is my last semester in the iTech program. During these 2 years, I had the opportunity to participate live synchronously or asynchronously. I had the option, but I never made it to go on campus for different kinds of reasons every time. I feel very privileged. I feel very fortunate because when I attended the program, COVID-19 hit, and the learning quality in the iTech program didn't seem to be affected from the transition to online teaching and learning. The greatest benefit of participation flexibility for me has been the fact that I managed to combine and balance my studies with family and work. Also, I do not live close to the university, so commuting could have made things even more complicated. So the program's flexibility has allowed me to combine my studies, work, and family responsibilities. What I loved the most about the HyFlex option is that it provides equal opportunities and learning experiences whether you attend online or participate asynchronously. And of course, the meaningful course design, a well-designed course is very important for achieving this.
Okay, so clearly there's some advantages there. I put some in the chat. I think others have been adding to the chat as well. Thank you for doing that. Let's go back and let's move on to another question. And this one, let's go back. Let's go to the one about the challenges, but I think that what we can do is probably combine the responses for our live students for their challenges, but also their experience of learning quality and equity, because oftentimes I think these do get kind of intertwined. It's a little bit of an artificial, separation here, and I want to make sure that we get a chance to hear from our live students. So let's see. Let's see. Adrian, would you start us out talking about essentially maybe some of the challenges if you've experienced any, but then also your relatively brief assessment of the challenges around quality and equity, or the support of an equitable learning environment for you in the online flexible.
Yes. So I think one challenge, and I'm just thinking from the teacher's perspective as well, is the group working alone on the group parts of the synchronous session. I think there's a lot of connection that goes into those, the group activities you have us do during the synchronous sessions. So I miss some of that, and that is challenging, but I just do my best to contribute to our document as this asynchronous learner. But on the flip side of that, I will say that doesn't take away from the quality, since we're talking about quality and equity, because overall, I think that's, a small sacrifice to make, missing out on those group interactions with the overall goal of being able to get, this degree in instructional design, which wouldn't happen at all without that flexibility. And from an equitable standpoint, I think everything, that was mentioned, like if you're a second language learner or you're commuting, these are all of the same issues, that my students mention at Laney. And then just the accessibility, you're very accessible to us. And I think that really, keeps the quality of the course going, because I hear some horror stories out there when students are like, I'm in this asynchronous class and I never hear from my professor. And that's what we don't want to happen. So I think to keep that quality high in these type of, online learning environments, that accessibility to the instructor is key.
Okay, thank you, Adrian. Larry, can you give us your comments? Challenges,
Yeah.
equity, quality?
Yeah, I'd say the challenges might be, takes a lot of diligence and ownership from the student's perspective to track all of your deadlines. Just interacting with the LMS, items can be lost in the mix of all the different assignments that are due, especially if you're taking multiple classes. They can overlap and that can be kind of hard to track. So it really takes personal ownership to take account of that. And also, it requires a high level of responsiveness from your professors. I myself have a difficult time interpreting instructions. So sometimes I need to read them and then go back and forth to really clarify what it is that's expected of me. And that takes a, it's a dance between the two people to make sure that you really understand what it is you're supposed to do. But the quality, I believe, can be the same or better because it just depends on the learning style of the student matching the medium, the mode. And for some people, and in certain circumstances, it can be a better mix than it could ever be in person. And I noticed that when it's group collaboration, I got a lot more out of the experience by working through Zoom and Slack and Google Docs and things than I could have in person, because I can actively participate in real time faster, and it doesn't even require verbal communications. You can see what somebody types and you can immediately respond or add, and it streamlines the process for working together. So I think the quality can be just as good, but in the right circumstance.
Thanks, Larry. Sadia, could you talk a little bit about challenges and equity and quality?
Yes, in case of equity and quality, it's great for me because it's accessible, it's flexible, and whenever I'm a bit confused, I can ask, go back to the discussion forum, and it actually helps me a lot to explore. And I never felt alone because everyone is, my peers are responding, professors are responding, and there are new options or new resources every time I'm posting something as a reply. And I'm facing a little bit of challenge because of my background, because of I'm an international student, and this is a HyFlex program, master's program. The university will not allow me a F1 visa, which means that I'll not have the opportunity to work in the United States under the optional practical training, OPT program. So it's actually a big program, a big problem for me, because I have the financial burden of paying higher tuition fee. And also right now I cannot secure a job in my field because of the visa type. So it's triggering a little bit of anxiety in me. Just that. Otherwise, I'm very happy with this program.
Okay, thank you, Sadia. Let's see, Adam, what do you think about challenges, equity, learning quality?
Yeah, I would say one challenge I've had, and it's like, it's more of like thinking about the trade-offs around rigor, that sometimes depending on how you participate, sometimes I'm wondering, am I participating in a less rigorous way or more rigorous way? Like sometimes when I participate synchronously, I'm like, oh, wow, this is really hard. I'm in the hot seat here, and this seems like harder than it would be if I had more time to do something asynchronously. On the other hand, sometimes it feels like the rigor can actually be even harder when you participate asynchronously and don't show up live. And so I think that's something I just grapple with, of like, how am I getting the most out of this? And I think it's more about trade-offs rather than like one necessarily being more rigorous than the other. And I'll just agree with I totally agree with what you said, Adrian, about like that social dynamic, that I think sometimes it just can take more time to build that community in a class, that when I've had my more, my in-person synchronous experiences, you usually get to know your classmates right away. You see them every week. I'm sometimes now in situations where I'm like, oh, it's 5 weeks in and I'm meeting some of my classmates for the first time in a synchronous way. And so some of that community building takes a lot of time, but it's also just kind of interesting and cool to know that I'm kind of how many learners this is reaching. And then when I think about the equity part, I think one thing that's been really interesting to me is thinking about this, like, I think this is a digital equity conference, and thinking about the digital equity lens of this is that I'm learning that maybe some students also can't always guarantee to participate synchronously because of their access to high-speed internet and broadband. And it's been interesting to see how sometimes when I work with students in a group project, I'm like, oh, you don't have access to high-speed internet right now. We have to talk on the phone or something. And so there are ways that I think that this program is really equitable in reaching learners from different access to internet as well, that I think is overlooked and a huge benefit to this program to a lot of learners.
Yeah, those are all good points. Yeah, so really, one of the things I often tell people is that all the challenges you have in any of the single mode kind of classes that we teach online, face to face, it really doesn't matter. All of those challenges often come into a class where you have multiple modes. It solves some challenges perhaps with engagement and flexibility and scheduling and those things, but challenges with disengaged learners, disengaged faculty, inequitable, at least perceptions of inequity around rigor. Because it requires, maybe different amounts of students making choices or faculty making choices to engage. That's all part of this now. And it's a little bit more complicated. I can speak from the teaching experience side of it, at least. What I'd like to do is hear from a couple of more students here, as we are getting close on time, but we're not there yet. We'll probably go for another 5 minutes of student voices. Let's hear from a couple more that we haven't heard from yet. I just have to move my windows around here so I can see their tabs. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's see. We haven't heard from Marwa yet. Let's hear from Marwa's going to introduce herself and then talk a little bit about some of the challenges that she found, or maybe not even many challenges.
My name is Marwa. I'm an international student from Lebanon. I took part in the HyFlex program specifically because of COVID. It was really helpful in the sense that you don't have to come to school if you were worried about a COVID outbreak. That was really helpful. It reduces the commute time between your home and university, including traffic, and you could, secure a rent that is not very high because you don't have to be around university. You can be living anywhere. So that was something very powerful. And in terms of the challenges, I think I had expectation to be more social and have that social experience, which I couldn't. Like in 2 years, I met only 2 colleagues, unfortunately, out of 22 cohorts, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on this. That was a challenge. However, in terms of the equity part of it, I felt that since we were assigned to share our, that was an assignment to share our thoughts about a course or something that Dr. BT expected from us. And I felt in terms of equity, that actually supported that factor, because everyone is in the same shoes, even though some of us had experiences. Probably had we seen each other face to face, we would have been maybe more intimidated to share than online, because you're behind screen. You don't really worry much about being judged. I felt that was one factor in terms of equity specifically. And then in terms of quality, I felt also that, when Dr. BT says something that you don't understand, so we can right away search for it. I felt that was, maybe it's probably not intentional, but it was really helpful. Of course, you can do it in person when this is the case, but you can't be on your mobile. Even if you're searching for something related to school, it could be taken as being disrespectful or something like this. That's my take on this. I hope that's okay. Thank you.
All right, let's hear from one more student. This is Angela. She's a recent graduate, and I'm gonna let her video go for her brief introduction, and then I'm gonna zoom back to the last part of it just for her comments on equity and quality.
Hi everyone, this is Angela. I graduated last year from SF State, and I just earned my master master's degrees in education and major in instructional design. So I've been with Dr. Brian's class in the last 2 years, from 2020 to 2022. And all my instructional design courses are all taken online. It really helps. My last feedback and something to wrap up is participating in the online class is really may help you to improve your study habits, and as long as the professor planned the the online experience with very systematic way and very organized, and you know what's going to happen next, and actually really help you to you have a clear schedule, and you know what you're going to learn, what is the next process. You read the material ahead of time, and then you do your homework, you join the class on the lecture, you join a group discussion, and then you go to the forum, you present your work, you give a feedback to other people's work, and it's a very good way to keep your learning habits going on. So I think it is overall is really good, as long as the professor plan the activities well and make you engage. And also good projects, very important to help each other after the class. We still meet, and we still can meet online. We can no matter where we travel, we can still meet up. So it's really helpful, and I hope this will help. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Well, I know there's more to each of those videos, and if you want to see them, you can take a look at those on YouTube. But we have probably time for 1 or 2 questions if you have questions, especially questions from the students. That's why we're here. So what would you like to know or hear more from them about?
Well, as we wait for people to collect their thoughts, maybe I can pose one. I'm interested to know, now that you've had these experiences with the flexible course delivery, I know Adrienne touched on it briefly and how she might take some principles back to her teaching. But for those of you who are instructional designers in other areas, I heard 2U and I heard an instructional designer for other companies, and maybe those of you who are in different settings, how do you intend to take these concepts back to make learning equitable in any setting?
What do you think?
I'll chime in. I think this just reinforces the fact that making instruction flexible in any way that you can is a good practice for, meeting, I guess, designing universal design for learning, which is aimed at helping all students learn. And that can look a lot of different ways. So in terms of modality, there's certainly challenges to doing HyFlex or a version of that. But I think if it can be technically and accomplished and in terms of training and everything, then I think it's great if that is feasible for the institution or for the program. Practically speaking, I think it's definitely our major challenges, especially when it comes to, for example, with our college, our faculty association decided that they don't want to do HyFlex, and it's part of the than union negotiations, because that's a big ask for them, and that's understandable. So we haven't really done much in terms of HyFlex specifically, but I appreciate that it's a way of meeting different students' needs and reaching, you know, a bigger population of students. And
Thanks, Eva.
I'll say that one thing that we found is that across the board, we see this, I see this being done in some K-12 schools, especially at the secondary level. Lots of different college systems from the, from community, quite a bit of community college level, but also kind of the bachelor, master's area we have, as well as doctoral programs and professional development programs as well. And really, there are three aspects that help any kind of flexibility work well. One, you have to have solid design, right? So you have to have good quality design in every path. So there's not a weak path by design, right? Kind of like a lazy flexibility, like, oh, if you don't want to be here, you can just do this other stuff online or read the book and take the test. I think that's, I don't mean it as a negative, but it kind of is like a lazy design. It's like, well, okay, we don't have time to design that for you, but you can have that path available to you. So that has to be there, but also you need the technology, right? You need technology that supports learning about multiple modes, and the students and the faculty have the skills in learning and teaching in the various modes. That's a really critical factor. Once you have the skills developed, then the workload is settles out for faculty, and the students don't get confused and wonder, what do I have to do next? I really don't know what I'm doing here online. Why did they ever let me do this? So, Kevin, I think, are we at time?
We are, but we would like to thank the panel and Dr. Beatty for sharing these ideas, and asynchronously, we'd like to thank those who took the time to pre-record some messages for our participants here. And I've already posted the link to the bit.ly link with the session description on the website for the conference. And once we have the recording ready to go, you'll have access to that as well. Thanks to everyone who came. We have another session starting in about 13 minutes. And so I will put in the chat the link to the, what do you call it, program at a glance, so that you all can choose where you're going to head next. And if you're going to stay here, you'll get to see Cody Stimpson from Arizona State University talking about stepping into diversity using virtual reality to build empathy and inclusion. I'm going to stop the recording now, and then we will see you all in just 13 minutes at another session. Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks a lot.